Well, the boys have been in a slump, and there's lots of talks about changes in the front office, at the coaching staff. But hey, Minnesota Wild are headed to Sweden, and we're going to get into all of it. Let's go. We all know the NHL season is a very long season. Is this just a slump for the Minnesota Wild? Is this a coaching issue? Is this a long-term or just a short-term issue that we're blowing out of proportion? What do you think, Gis? Is this going to continue, or are they just in a slump here?
Well, I think it's clearly a slump. Hopefully it's a slump. The points you bring up are just a culmination of what happens when things go wrong with an NHL hockey club, especially early in the season. And the thing that really strikes me, guys, is this is a hockey club that we've traditionally talked about in the last couple of seasons that was very, very capable of managing winning streaks and losing streaks, and they have not done that. They have lost 9 out of 11 right now. They're in Sweden, and they're a team searching desperately, I think, for an identity.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yes, it is early in the season, but there is a lot of cause for concern. We have let up almost the most goals in the NHL, and I think this trip over to Sweden could be a really good turning point for us, just a mental reset for the guys and, get away from the daily routines, and hopefully they can get the train back on the track, but it's definitely something to be a little worried about early in the season.
Let's talk about Sweden real quick. Eric, who are they playing again over in Sweden? I know they have the Stars, right? And they face...
Actually, they have Ottawa on Saturday. It's a 9:30 a.m. start here in Minnesota, and then they play Toronto on Sunday. So it's the Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs, a couple Canadian teams. And the team chartered over at 10 o'clock. They left Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and they're acclimating to the time zone. And I think Dean Evison is probably treating this like, about 10% sightseeing and about 90%, hey, we need a couple wins here. We need points. But, the gang's all over there, and an interesting cast of characters, a lot of Swedes on the team. So I'm sure it's really, really kind of a great homecoming for the Euros on the Wild roster right now. And as Alex mentioned, maybe a little bit of a team bonding deal. But the bonding will end on Saturday and Sunday because those are NHL games that count in the standings, and they're there to get 4 points first and foremost.
Yep. For sure. And yeah, I was wrong about the Stars, obviously, but that Stars game last week still lingering on my mind, and I can't get it out.
Yes.
And it can't get much worse than that. I mean, that was embarrassing at home, at the X. I mean, when we go to Sweden, we've got a lot of hometown guys there. What do we think we're going to see out of some of them? Are we going to kind of get them on another level? And did they bring Jesper over there? Am I hearing some rumblings about this?
Yeah, Jesper is there. A couple of Wild call-ups. I think Damian Hunt and Jesper Wallstedt. Nick Patan made the trip as well. So there's 3 people from Iowa there. There's a big question mark on whether Kirill Kaprizov's even going to play a game over there. Undisclosed lower body injuries. He had an MRI before he left. They're kind of being mum about it. But let's get back to the cause and effect here. Kirill Kaprizov has candidly not been himself most of the season, and there needs to be there has to be something wrong. I think I've never seen kind of a lack of energy and a lack of burst so noticeable with Kirill here. So yeah, I mean, a lot of intangibles, guys, and it'll be fun for the Swedes. I mean, they have, I think, 6 of them, and brought a couple more. So, but clearly they're there to get points.
Yep. And let's talk about Kirill, since you brought that up. I'll ask you, Alex. I mean, there's obviously something wrong, right? I mean, this is not the Kirill we're used to.
No, absolutely not. He's definitely playing with a step off of his game. It's just not at the same speed. It's not the Kirill we know and love. And I think there's got to be some kind of injury lingering there. I just find it very hard to believe that this Kirill is 100% healthy. It's not what we're used to, and hopefully he needs some time off. I don't know what it is, but hopefully we get the old Kirill back real soon because we need him.
Yeah, and I know it's an undisclosed injury, but I do honestly hope that it is some kind of injury. Not that I want him to be injured, but I think then it's better than just being some kind of mental issue that's going on. I'd rather it be something physical that he can work through, and it's a lot easier than a mental injury. But we've kind of seen that with this team now beyond Kirill. Or is this maybe a residual effect because of Kirill, Eric, that some of the other stars like Matt Boldy and some of these guys are not showing up right now either, it feels like?
Well, you read my mind, just picking up where Alex left off. If Kirill's not playing well, then you have kind of a trickle down effect. And right or wrong, you should also be able to say that some guys should need to pick up the pace, and if they're not, they're not. Matt Boldy is back, obviously, from injury. Matt Zuccarello kind of goes as Kirill goes. He starts taking a look at all the guys who kept the hands to the plow going while others dropped off or got injured last year are not. And that to me is a real telltale sign of where this hockey club is right now. And it's got to be fixed. I mean, when one goes down, one rises up, or two rise up, or three rise up. But we've seen that back and forth in the last season and a half or 2 seasons. We're not seeing that this year. That's why they've lost 9 of 11.
Yeah. And I wonder also, we talk about injuries being an issue, but also just like mentally, we've got a lot of guys on this team that Billy G has signed to some long contracts, the guys that are going to be here till 2028, and they're not really playing for their contract. I hope they're playing for their team. I hope they're out there to try to win. Obviously, every one of these guys are athletes. They all want to win, but do you think any of that is actually having some kind of an issue? We've seen the Twins even start to try to step back from giving out those longer contracts to the entire team and having guys that are, free agent available to next year, in 2 years, things like that, and not try to lock down everyone, because you kind of put yourself in a corner when that happens. We've got Hartman and Foligno and all these guys we gave some big contracts to, which I was a fan of at first, don't get me wrong. But now that I'm starting to see the product of this team, the way they're playing right now, I'm getting a little worried, because this is the team. They're not, what are they going to do? Trade these guys? I mean, I don't think that's going to help the locker room either, right?
So a couple of thoughts on that, if I could jump in. General managing is a shell game. It's a gut instinct game. It's also a financial game. It's all those things combined. I was curious as some of the re-signings based on the age and kind of the contributions and the abilities. I like to think there's an end game that at some point when they get some cap space here, these people will be a less emboldening or less beholding to keep or to not keep. And they're all great guys, but they're all mid-age and they're all 35. I don't know what you do for the immediate term. I know what you can do for the long term when you got cap space. And I just wanted to throw in an injury note. I think one guy the Wild have really, really missed is Freddie Gaudreau at center. He's a penalty killer. He's a great penalty shot guy. And quite frankly, penalty kill and the power play have been, what do you want to say?
Horrendous.
Horrible. That's one way to describe it. So the Wild
Dallas Stars playoff bad.
The Wild are in a perfect storm situation here that they desperately need to get out of sooner than later, for sure.
Yeah. We should probably talk about the power play and penalty kill. That's a great transition, honestly. And it was, let's just talk about the Stars game that we just had. 8-3, we fall. Was it 5 power play goals they scored? And then 2 of them were shorthanded goals, I think. I don't know if there was even a full strength goal until right at the end. That was rough. What do you do on this power play and penalty kill? We've seen it do good things, and it just kind of feels like they all try so hard on puck control and don't worry as much about where the defenders are. And they're trying to set up shots, which you got to do. I know you got to do, but at the same time, you got to kind of wing it a little bit. You got to change up on the fly. It kind of feels like the other teams are adapting to our power play and our penalty kill because it's pretty predictable. Is that the issue? And what do you see, Alex, on penalty kill and power play?
That's Coach Alex right now. Go ahead. Put your coach's cap on, A-Train.
Well, I feel like this is more of an assistant coach thing to say, but there's too many pucks in the back of the net, letting too many goals in. It's the simple answer, but
we haven't even scratched the surface of goaltending woes. We enjoyed, Gus the Bus last year, and the Flower came in and it was a perfect 1-2 punch. Combo a bad penalty kill or a bad, power play with, suspect goaltending. And you'd have to say the goaltending is suspect right now. It is the perfect storm. To me, it gets down to, like Cole, you said, like we're holding on to the puck. How about some greasy one? Can we start with some greasy goals? Can we just walk before we can run here and get back to some mojo? And who knows what the injuries that we've kind of scratched the surface on here are doing to their how potent their power play can be. But clearly, there's a lot of things broken and a lot of fingers to be pointed. And it's going to take some just some get back to basics hockey and some greasy goals and some greasy hockey to, I think, get this team back on track. And maybe that's going to be their identity this year. Quit trying to paint so many pictures and let's just charge through the dog kennel here.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, one thing I've noticed personally on the penalty kill is we tend to seem to let in a lot of goals that are screened goals and not necessarily screening that the opposing team is even screening Fleury or Gus. It's like I saw Spurge just the other day. He's sitting on the left side of the net. Puck gets passed across the top of the blue line, and he moves over to the right side at the exact time that he's taking the shot. And there is no way that Fleury could even ever see that puck. And it wasn't even the Stars guys trying to get in front. Normally that's what's happening, but they were just trying to set up on the backside, trying to get a little, tapping goal off of a rebound or anything. And he's moving in front right as they shoot. It happened 2-3 times in the last 2-3 games I've seen where we've had defenders, whether it's Spurge or Middleton or somebody else out there in the penalty kill, step right and cross in the front of the goalie. And you can't blame Fleury when he can't see a puck. I mean, that's definitely an issue for me right now is they're posting up a guy to try to stop the rebounds when we need to have goalies not give out rebounds. And I think that's kind of a little bit of a product of both things.
And perhaps it's no coincidence that Billy G went out and traded for Zach Bogosian within the last week, a 6'4", 4'5", 220-pound defenseman. He's trying to get some big bodies back in that crease to clear the way for some of the goaltenders. But again, whether that's a quick fix or a long-term fix remains to be seen. It all comes down to systems and when the whole team is not going really well and your specialty teams are even below that, you got big problems.
Yeah. And, like we said, we're not coaches or assistant coaches. We don't know the fix. But from what I can see from the games, something's got to be fixed. And it's hopefully they get together in Sweden. They come together as a team. Maybe they tour some sweet places. Maybe Jesper takes them back home for a little hometown cooking. I don't know. They need something that needs to spark they need a little Ted Lasso to step in that locker room, I think, because it isn't just our injuries. It isn't just that the other teams are outsmarting us. I think there's a little bit of disconnect between the players right now is what it feels like, and the coaching staff. You can just feel it watching these games. It doesn't feel like the Minnesota Wild of the past. And I don't know if that's something lingering from playoffs last year and how disheartening it was to lose, because you've got the same team out there. These are the same guys. They've been through it together. And now they're all of a sudden in the beginning of the season where every game doesn't matter as much as it did in playoffs. And I just hope they can find a way to get out of that mindset and realize that these games really matter now. And they need to step up and play every day like it's playoffs. I don't know. You got to go hard. They got to do something. But I do want to bring up, I had another note of something just to talk about on a side note. We all are from Minnesota. We're Minnesota high school hockey players. We all knew of Adam Johnson before anything had happened. I followed his story. I'm 30 years old. I watched him as he grew up through high school hockey and saw him literally on the top of the leaderboards in single A every year that I was in high school. Couldn't get enough. He was. You'd look at the stats the next morning on Hockey Hub and you'd be like, wow, he put up 4 goals and 4 assists. How does he do it? That's about what I've got on the season right now, And this guy was just an absolute magician, and very sad to see that he passed away while playing. It was a game over in Europe, and he took a skate to the neck. If anyone hasn't seen it, I'm sure you've probably heard about it if you're a Wild fan watching this. And yeah, I mean, and now I guess they've arrested the guy whose skate it was that clipped him in the neck. I mean, I don't know what you guys think about this. I don't want to start to speculate or, anything like that. I just wanted to pay my respects, first of all, to Adam Johnson and his whole family and everybody else in the state of Minnesota and Pittsburgh, everywhere he played. But how do you guys feel about sports injuries and law? What about fights in hockey? If somebody were to throw a fist, like where is the crossover here?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's just so hard to tell, and there's going to be such a fine line of whether it is or isn't, and I think this is just one of those situations where there's such a gray area that I don't want to, I'm going to sit on a fence on this one. I don't want to pick a side here, but at the end of the day, it's just tragic what happened.
Yeah, I think you guys have heard me talk in this last couple of weeks. I, like Cole, followed Adam's career and even had a chance to get to know him a little bit through some hockey cousins in the Hibbing area. And Adam Johnson was a first-class citizen and just a first-class guy. He's the guy you wanted to be around. We were at the golf course. He's the guy you wanted to be in the clubhouse with or palling around with. So this emotional subject for me, just to see Adam gone, I can't even get myself to look at the actual video itself. A lot of people hurting and Hibbing, and hats off, to the community for rallying together. And I mean, this was a lightning bolt, especially in the hockey community, of which we know is so close and so tight. And surely he's going to be missed. To turn that corner rather abruptly here and talk about, intent and fault, I've given this a lot of thought. And I mean, this Matt Petgrave kid, I don't know his history. I don't know his past. I don't know what kind of player he is. But when he's arrested for manslaughter yesterday, you get all kinds of things going like, well, you get emotions from like, is the penance of actually having your skate blade kill somebody enough punishment for this? Was there intent? Was it malicious? You hear everything from it was a karate kick to it was the perfect storm of an accident. I don't think those questions may ever be answered. We know Adam Johnson is gone. We know Matt Petgrave has to live with it. I don't know where you guys, and we've talked about this off podcast, guys. I don't know where we draw the line with, what happened.
Well, then
it's tough. When you say the word intent, it could be a million things.
It's really hard to say anything about intent when it happened during the clock running, during play. It wasn't as if the game had ended or if he was on the ground and there was a rebound and he came flying in with his skates up. It was in the middle of the ice. It was up by the top of the blue line. It was a skate flew up and close to his throat, obviously. And I mean, there's lots of times where guys fall and skates go up. And I don't know how they're going to be able to determine whether or not this was intent. I think, like you said, you kind of obviously have to look a little at his history, but you can't judge him based off of that either, because even if he did make some stupid mistakes in his past and he has maybe a temper, who knows? I don't know this guy. I don't want to speculate, but let's just say that that's the truth. I don't know how you cross that over and say, oh, that's manslaughter. I mean, I know he did kill someone, and like you said, he has to live with that no matter what, whether it was intent or an accident or not. I don't care. He's living with that and bringing that to his grave for the rest of his life. And I feel horrible for him and for Adam Johnson. I feel bad for everyone that was there at that stadium and at that game. I feel bad for his family. The whole thing is just a mess.
Yeah.
And it's a 1 in a 10 million, 100 billion, who knows, chance of how many hockey games have happened. And there have definitely been people that have been cut. There's been throats. Even there was Clint Malarchuk. His throat got cut as a goalie. There was clearly no intent on that, time. But I don't know. I don't want to get on it too long. But
yeah, there have been assault charges from stemming from fights. Think of Donald Brashear and Dave Forbes back in the day, before you guys were born. I think the maybe a better word than intent is, the maliciousness, of the egregiousness of which an injury and sometimes catastrophic happens. And I don't know. I think we may all go to our graves not knowing fully the answer to the topic at hand here. Yeah, of course.
Right. No, and I don't want to spend too much time on this.
You have to talk about it. The hockey world is buzzing about it. And
I think everyone's wondering, what happens if this happens to someone else I know. And I think if there's anything good that's come out of this for him getting arrested is, for the family, at least they're looking into it. I'm glad that they didn't just go, oh, it's hockey. It's an accident. People fight, things happen. If there was actually even any potential of that this guy did have any kind of intent, they should look into it. And I think he as a player would agree, no matter if it was him or anyone else, it wasn't a straight up normal hockey play in there. If that's what they determined, then it wasn't hockey. And that was aggressive and maybe something else. But we need to just wait. I don't want anyone out there to speculate. Remember that this is about Adam and not about anyone else. And we'll wait and see what happens. But let's kind of talk about one last thing. If you got one last thing, Alex.
Yeah, before we move on, I think another, I don't want to say good thing, but another thing that will come from this and will be interesting to pay attention to is not only around the NHL, but in lower levels of hockey too, the people wearing neck guards. I think that's going to be something kind of interesting to watch and how popular those get just to prevent something like this from happening in the future.
Did you wear a neck guard, Alex, when you played hockey? See, I had to wear a neck guard until the day that I made the varsity team, and they said, take it off. And I took it off.
I was the same way. I was the same way a couple hundred years before your guys' careers, but you wore neck guards in mites, you wore neck guards in squirts, you wore in peewees and in bantams, and when you got to high school, off it came.
The second guys were able to shoot a puck at almost 100 miles an hour, or guys' skates are this long instead of
What's
this
wrong
long.
With this
They're
picture?
And people are showing up with actual sharpened skates to games instead of just playing on the outdoor rink as mites and skate, sharpening them once a year. They're like, your neck's fine. I think that clearly needs a change. And I know there's some companies out there that are working on some Kevlar type stuff that's actually attached to the shirt that could go up, because that was also an issue when I wore neck guards, is that it would get sweaty and gross and it would get bunched up all the time. It was hard to wash.
The Velcro would catch you
yes. It was uncomfortable for sure, but you got used to it. And I think players are going to have to get used to wearing a neck guard, just like goalies started putting on, they have the neck guard thing as well after. I think that happened not long after Clint Malarchuk. And I know that wasn't just for skates, that's for pucks as well. But, they all have either masks that come down lower or neck guard, not just the regular hockey helmet like some of the goalies back in the day used to wear. It's just crazy to watch some of those games. I don't know how they did it. And I think that's where, if there's anything good that comes out of this situation, it's going to be that, yes, this is a horrible, horrible accident that happened to Adam Johnson, but maybe it's going to save somebody else out there. And that's my hope, is that this is going to cause some kind of change in the hockey world that's going to save other players, some other kid down the line who shouldn't have any of this happen to him. And that's the hope, right? I think we're all on the same page with that. But let's turn a page before we wrap this up real quick. And I do want to talk about one thing that I know the hockey world also has on their mind with the Minnesota Wild. Sorry, this is a hard transition to go from that to this, but let's talk about the coaching staff a little bit and when we might see some changes. Is this something that, are we thinking Christmas? Are we thinking like sometime after Sweden? We know they're not making changes this week. But if this continues, if this slump continues, how long do you think it is before if there's changes, whether it's players, coaches, GM, something is going to change, right? I assume you can't just continue to lose with a team that is built to win and not expect changes.
I would agree with you 100%. I guess I'll lead off if that's all right, A-Train. I think this coaching staff is on the clock now. I think the expectations in the state are higher than what's happening. I also want to defend the coaching staff by saying that it is what it is and has been what it was. And I think this is a coaching staff that has headed off a lot of what we're seeing today in seasons past with good coaching and good decisions. But at some point, to Cole's point and to Alex's point, you're going to have to do something to appease the fan base, to appease, sponsors, to appease the ownership group and the front office. And we all know 99 out of 100 times that's a coaching change. It's already happened in the National Hockey League. The Edmonton Oilers had a new coach less than 2 weeks into the season from a horrendous start. They've got guys like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and a host of others, but they've got other problems. The Wild have problems right now, and right or wrong, and trust me, I love this coaching staff. I really do. I think I would rather people remember before they want to get the chopping block out to remember how many wins this coaching staff had with roughly the same infrastructure and a salary cap challenge for the last 2 years. But that said, that is not going to win the day by the first of the year if the Wild's swoon doesn't significantly pick up here. That's one person's opinion. It's probably waffling a little bit, but I think it's the reality.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Cole said it well. This is a winning team that's losing. This is pretty much the same roster as their playoff team from last year. There's not much different, and we're just not seeing success on the ice. And if this continues, I think you do have to make a change just to switch the pace up, get a change of culture in there. But I feel like I still have confidence in this group. We've seen it in the past. Obviously, they can get there. And I think it's just about, putting those pieces together and just figuring out, what is this year's Wild hockey and how do we play it to the best of our ability.
And guys, just real quick, just dovetailing off Alex's point there, this is so tough because you're talking about livelihoods. But when you really think of the Wild coaching staff, that's just the way it is, and right or wrong. And I would also like to not forewarn Wild fans and people who follow the Wild, but I've been around the sports business for 40 years, and sometimes making a change sounds so really great, but where are you at? Is the change happen at the right time? Do you get the right person? The fact for making a change just for the sake of change, I've seen backfire as much as work. And I would plead that Wild fans, hang in there for a little bit here. But certainly, by the first of the year, if this trend continues, it will not be shocking to see, those first, steps 1 and 2 of a redo. Yep. Behind the bench and, candidly in the front office too.
And maybe in the crease as well. Maybe we see Jesper Wallstedt get his shot. I mean, if there's ever a time, it's right now.
He's in Sweden. He speaks Swedish.
If he made his debut in Sweden, that would be amazing.
Right.
All right, we're going to wrap this up right now. I'm going to just each ask one of you. We want to end this with something positive. I don't want to end this. Yeah. It's such a downer. And I'll start by one of my favorite positive things right now with the Wild to watch. And that has been Mr. Jake Middleton. He's got 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points in only 15 games. He's hot. I mean, he scored 9 goals in his entire career in 174 games. And right now he's got 2 in 15.
All he does is score goals now.
It does. Yeah.
Comparatively speaking.
Yeah. On the team, everyone's got bad plus minuses. So don't look at that. But overall, Middleton, is kind of stepping up as a little bit more of an offensive guy, and it's good to see. I mean, we need that. We need those guys to be more than just defensive players. And I don't know. I'll go to you, Gis. What's one of your positives on the team you've seen so far?
Yeah, I'm echoing on Midzi. Midzi, he had a horrible plus minus early. He's righted that ship, and he's a first class individual and certainly a backbone. My guy's Marco Rossi. Yes. Marco Rossi coming up from Des Moines after half the population wanted to give up on him. He stuck through it. He beat that COVID stuff from a couple of years ago, and he stayed this year in Minnesota instead of going back to his native country to have a summer. Marco Rossi's my guy that he's solidified a center position. He's been playing some first line, playing with the right people. Hats off to Marco. I think he's been one of the shining stars and the bright spots here, and a kid I think has got a bright NHL future.
And we needed that for sure. Alex, bright spot? My bright spot is going to be Connor Dewar. I feel like every time I flip the game on, and he's just flying all over the ice. He's in every play. He's laying the body when he needs to. He's just a guy in the Wild that I really enjoy watching and kind of look for every time he's out on the ice.
That's a good one. I like that. He looks like he's coming out there and making his debut every game is what it kind of feels like. He's like, this may be my last game ever with the Minnesota Wild. It's just
you're right.
Which that's what you need.
It's great.
That's what we need from all these guys right now. We need that from Matt Boldy. We need that from Fleury. We need that from everybody thinking like, hey, who knows if this is my last game in a Wild jersey? I might be down in Iowa next week, and I'm going to go hard. And he sure does. I agree. And I think that's the same thing with Rossi. He's probably playing the same way.
Vinny Lettieri's doing that right now. Vinny Lettieri could be in Iowa tomorrow. He's playing every game like it's his last game. Yeah, Louis' grandkid.
Pretty awesome to see.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of bright spots on this Wild team. It's good to see. I hope the next time we jump on this podcast, we're saying, hey, Jesper Wallsted's killing it. We're back from Sweden. We had a good trip. And but we'll find out. Let's hope, right? That's all we can do is hope that there's no change to this team and that like Alex said, the winning team stops losing. That's what we need. And we're going to be here to cover all of it. We're going to be talking Minnesota Wild. We're on Twitter. You can follow us there at Hot Dish Sports. Obviously, subscribe to our YouTube channel right here, Hot Dish Sports. We'll be doing podcasts on the Twins, Vikings, Wild, even the Timberwolves right now. My goodness, are they hot? We're going to be kicking in some Timberwolves stuff.
I watched them last night. A hockey guy watched them last night.
Well, you know why? Because there was a fight. A little hockey.
Hockey
showed up. Gobert got put in a headlock. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
So we'll be talking about everything. Maybe we'll even get Giss on our Timberwolves podcast. He's watching the Wolves right now. But
Giss would be the uninformed guy when it comes to the Wolves. But yeah, they're fun to watch. They're really fun to watch.
Yeah. Yes, at least we've got a bright spot right now in Minnesota, no matter who's up or down. And we'll be here for all of it. Follow us, Hot Dish Sports, and thanks for watching. Till next time.